ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It's time for What Do You Call It? Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Call It? Podcast. Sorry, I have to make it different for the intro. Today's guest, she actually trained at Lance Storm's Wrestling Academy. She's a standout in the British women's wrestling scene as we speak. It is Kiara. How you doing today? You all right?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. It's nice to be in the same time zone, isn't it?
It makes such a huge difference. It really does. Normally it's like 12 or midnight, and then obviously where the Americans don't realise like, how tired we are as well. So this is quite nice.
It is, definitely.
So what's gotten you through the pandemic and being in lockdown?
That is a really good question. So just to my left, I have a power rack, which I bought before the pandemic. Now, if you want to buy any kind of indoor weight equipment, the price is about 3 times as much as it should be. So I'm quite blessed that I've got sort of squat rack. I can do bench press with safety bars, so I don't need a spotter. And so I'm part of CPW. I'm the lineal women's champion. And we've been doing private tapings without an audience, which is allowed under lockdown. And so we've been having those tapings, and that's, even though there's no audience, that has been keeping the ring rust off. And I'm also going to Marty Jones's school up in Oldham, which is near Manchester, called the Squared Circle Academy. I've been doing that this year, and that counts as it's elite one-on-one training. Everyone gets tested, it's all very safe, and we've got permission from the local council and the police. It's all above board. And if it wasn't, honestly, in terms of mental health, if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for CPW, I do not know where I'd be, because that's really kept me going through the pandemic. I think I would have gone nuts otherwise.
I went nuts, so I started a podcast. I literally gained so much weight. I literally gained about 2 stone during lockdown, and I broke my ankle as well. So it's good that you was able to basically still do what you love during these times. It must have been a bit strange though, wrestling without an audience. What was that like?
Yes. So we had CPW back in August of 2020, where there was this brief period between the lockdowns. We did have a live show with an audience, but everyone was wearing masks. And that was strange. We came to the ring in masks, and we couldn't high five anyone. And that was strange. That's stranger than no audience. Having an audience there, but all wearing masks, and it's like you're not allowed to touch anyone in the audience, or like you're not allowed to project your voice. You can't be like yelling at them because that's projecting too much. That was stranger than no audience at all.
That just sounds unheard of. But I mean, before the pandemic, it's just like, you can't actually go near the audience. So that just sounds really weird. But the fact that you've been able to do that, it's a massive learning experience for you. But when is it that made you realise, so I'm just going to try and reword this. That didn't come out very well. So basically, just going to ask, is this something that you could get used to, or has this made you appreciate the relationship that the wrestlers have with the fans?
Oh, yes. There's something missing. So I won this beautiful belt without an audience, and I really hope I get to defend this belt in time for an audience, because there is a big gaping hole in my heart that's missing without the CPW galaxy. Without the craziness of the fans, the cheering, it's not the same. It's really not the same. I think WWE have done a really good job with their little TV monitors of the crowd in the audience. I think that's a really good compromise, I think.
I know it's quite easy to like shit on WWE at times, but the Thunderdome has just been like such a gift during times like
these. It has been.
I did it once, and don't get wrong, I mean, it was good to sort of be part of something, but they're very strict. But enough about WWE. Before we go back to the beginning of your career, I do know that you went to a few WrestleManias. Which WrestleManias did you go to?
I went to WrestleMania 28. That was in Miami in 2012. And there were 2 main events. It was the Hell in a Cell but with Undertaker versus Triple H with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee.
And greatest also, false finish ever.
I know, right? And I was, oh my gosh. Yeah, they had a little podcast, those three, and they were talking about that false finish. And in one of the Raw replays, one of the crowd reactions was me in the that's my tiny little claim to fame. I'm like, yeah, I've been on WWE, not wrestling, but I was like this. It was that after that super kick, right? That was I'm gonna mark out really bad. But yeah, the other main event was Rock Cena, the first Rock Cena.
The good one, until they did it again.
The good one, yeah.
The fact that it's like advertised as once in a lifetime, that's the only time you're ever going to see it until next year. How was that as in general? Like how did you basically organize the trip? Did you go through WWE or did you do it independently?
Yeah, good question. So some of the other UK fans, they do the big package holiday deal, right? So we didn't do that. It was me, my brother, my sister, and my brother's wife. Not wife at the time, they got married after, and she kind of puts up with wrestling, and he's made her a fan. Nice. And so we booked the tickets first of all, and then we booked the flights separately. We didn't do access, we kind of just came a couple days before the show, and then afterwards we went to Orlando to go to Disney World.
You had to squeeze in a Disney trip then. Nice.
Yeah, of course.
Nice. I've never done a Mania before, but I'll have to definitely do it. So, have you always been a lifelong wrestling fan?
Oh yeah. So when I was a little bit young for the Attitude Era, so my brother and sister, they're both older than me. They got to stay up late and watch the pay-per-views at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. for us in the UK.
Yep. And
I only ever remember watching one pay-per-view late in 2001. I was a little bit too young for the others. So 2001 was 2002 is getting towards the end of the Attitude Era. So I kind of caught the end of it. And what I remember more than the actual matches was playing the video game, WrestleMania 2000 on the Nintendo 64.
Great
and what
game.
Stood out to me, fantastic game. We still play it now. We've got the Nintendo just over there. And the best feature was the create your own wrestler mode.
Of course. Yeah, so addictive, aren't they?
So addictive. And I had no concept of imperial measurements of pounds and height, inches and feet. So I just made my character like 7 foot and 500 pounds. I was like, yeah, I want to make them the biggest, the best. My sister was like, you can't be that tall. No woman is that tall. And you don't want to be fat. And I was like, no, I want them to be big. I want them to be strong.
I did love them games. If I could get the N64 from CEX now, I'd happily spend a weekend playing it. No, that's good. Did you have any favourites growing up?
Oh, yeah. Probably Shawn Michaels. And
good choice.
In terms of women, Chyna, she was really badass. And Tori and Jacqueline, she was amazing. And towards when I was still a fan going to WrestleMania, my favourite was AJ Lee.
She was great. She retired too early, but obviously she had issues with CM Punk and stuff. But just really, I think underrated. I think as soon as she left, that's when we saw like the Divas Revolution and the boom for women's wrestling in WWE. Bit of a shame, really. So we've established that you had actually been a wrestling fan since you were little, which is good. So how did you discover Robby Brookside's wrestling school in England? And what was Robby Brookside like as a coach?
Great question. So for those who don't know, that was the first wrestling school I went to. And I discovered it because I would just search for local wrestling schools. I'm based in Leicester, Peterborough area, Leicestershire. And it just happened to be the closest school. So my parents knew who Robby Brookside was, but because that was the ITV World of Sport era in the 70s and 80s, I wasn't really familiar with who he was. And since then, I've gone back and studied meticulously every detail of the old World of Sport matches. But as a coach, it was really funny. So the week I was supposed to go, it was the end of April 2012. I went to WrestleMania at the beginning of that April, and there was a fire at the gym. So the first week I was going to go, it was cancelled. I thought, oh, bummer. So I went next week, and there was a temporary gym that was a little bit seedy. There was loads of graffiti. There were like cigarette butts. There was a big sign out front saying no spitting, no drugs, like on A4 sheet of paper. I was like, oh. And my dad, who drove me, I couldn't drive at the time. he wasn't super happy about me starting wrestling anyway.
Yeah.
So he, our first impressions were like, oh, but after we met Robby, you could tell he was excellent teacher. He really knew his stuff, and it was about the training. That's what mattered, not where you train, but who you train with.
And there's a reason why he's with WWE to this day and training, the future basically, and get some really good rep, especially from people like William Regal, who absolutely adore him. And then, you speak high of him as well. Do you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, well, we get to send the occasional email, watch the occasional match, and give a little bit of feedback.
Really, that's pretty good of him to do that. So I like to hear that the coaches, they don't just sort of close the door on you once you're out there. They keep in touch. I like to hear that.
No, it's the same with Lance Storm as well. He keeps in touch, and I'm really grateful for that.
I am looking forward to talking about your journey to Canada and Lance Storm's wrestling school, because I'm a fanboy basically. I've done this podcast because I love wrestling. And Lance Storm, I don't know if you've ever heard of OSW Review. They have like their stable of boys, and like they basically, you have a stable of people that weren't the world champion, but you just love them. And Lance Storm is in that stable. So before I do talk about Lance Storm and you going there, you actually took a break from wrestling to focus on your education at Cambridge. What did you study?
Yes, I studied the natural sciences. So it's a bit different from Oxford. If you want to study chemistry, biology, or physics, you don't study them separately. They smush them all together. And the course is called natural sciences, and you pick your modules. So I picked a bit of biology, a bit of chemistry. I wanted to do physics, but it seemed quite challenging. And although I got an A* in physics at A level, I thought I'd just stick with the biology and chemistry for university. And part of the reason why I had to stop wrestling was because it was so dang difficult. Like you work your butt off at A levels trying to get to Cambridge or Oxford, which is so hard to get into.
Not easy.
And then once you get there, because I was the first, me and my sister were the first generation in our family to go to university, so it was like quite new for our family. And we certainly, we weren't from a long line of people going to university. And the exams were so difficult, and I did very well in my second and third year, but my first year, when I was trying to balance and juggle wrestling with the academics, I didn't do too well. So I really had to just focus on the studying, unfortunately, for second and third year.
Were you still watching the products while you basically were at uni and studying?
I went from watching every Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-view to just watching the pay-per-views.
Oh, okay, so you were kind of keeping up to date, but not watching it religiously, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, and what made you not want to continue the career that you basically could have after uni? And when is it that you decided, I want to basically do wrestling full time and make the decision to enroll into Lance Storm's Wrestling Academy?
So there was never a decision not to do wrestling. The whole time when I paused the wrestling career, the whole time in my head, I knew I'm going back to this, because I read an article that JR had posted saying that the most important thing that WWE are looking for is for college educated people to be ambassadors for the company. And they love if you have a second or third language. I don't, unfortunately. I speak a bit of German, but if you could speak Mandarin, if you can speak Japanese, they love that. That really, they want people to be educated so they can bring the product across the world. So in the back of my head, with the studying and exams, and the main reason I applied for Cambridge, because I was thinking of David Otunga, one of the Nexus originals.
Really?
Yeah, I always announced him, and they were like,
from Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's going to look really good on a WWE application. So that was like the biggest reason why I applied for Cambridge, which sounds ridiculous. But also I knew that if I ever got injured in wrestling, that it'd be a
fall back onto it.
Exactly, because injuries do happen, unfortunately. Touch wood, I've never been injured or injured anyone. And I found out about Lance Storm's Academy so I graduated 2015, and in 2016, that's when I found out about Lance Storm's school, and I started saving up all the money I could pull together. And then 2017 is when I went across the pond.
So you made the brave decision to enroll into Alberta, Canada. Is that your first time going to Canada, by the way?
First time going to Canada, yep.
And what was the weather like, just before we talk about the school?
It was, so when I was there were piles of snow, the snow plows, because I went in April to July, there was piles of snow that had been ploughed that was melting. So it wasn't snowing when I arrived, but it was still kind of cold enough for the snow to be settled still. And then by the time I left, it was so hot each day. And there was no air conditioning, so we were like,
And what was his school like?
It was such a valuable experience. I know he's sort of doing online coaching, like he sort of stopped the school. But if I could go again, I know that Rachel Evers has been twice or 3 times, and Chelsea Green comes back to the school sometimes to do seminars and learn. Like I tried to soak up as much as I possibly could and make notes. I was the only one there scribbling on a notebook. And I don't know why you wouldn't bring a notebook to training. It was like the match psychology, how to tell a good story, some of the stories that, trying to keep it original, but some of the stories follow the same pattern, the same pattern in a match, the beginning, the beat down, and then the comeback, the amazing comeback that everyone wants to see. And I got to do some shows out there as well, and got paid for some shows. So some of the people I met were really funny and interesting. And I'm glad I wasn't going to bring my gear. I had my wrestling boots that I'd bought from Ringside Boots that were quite expensive. I was going to leave them at home because I wasn't expecting to get any bookings when I was out there. I was still so new to wrestling, but luckily I did.
And what was Lance Storm like as a coach? Was he? I get the impression, because on Twitter and social media, I've never met him, but I'm just judging from what I see, that he's got quite a dry sense of humour, but he is quite funny at the same time. What was he like to you?
Super funny. He was super funny. He made a joke right at the beginning. He's like, there's always one stinky person in class that doesn't shower. Don't be that person. Then he looked at me, because I was the only woman in that cohort for the summer group. He's like, It's never been the girl, but maybe it'll be the girl this time. Maybe the girl will be the stinky one. I'm like, no, that won't be me. And no, he's really funny. And he was telling us he likes things to be exact. Like if he's filling up his petrol at the tank, he wants, if the numbers are at 1999, he wants to get them to 2000. He wants all the numbers to line up, and he's the kind of person that gets satisfaction from little things in life like that. I think that's the best way I can describe him.
I'd love to meet him one day. Basically, like with Robbie, do you still keep in contact with Lance as well?
Yeah, we stay in contact.
And does he give you feedback in your matches lately? Or no,
yeah, I sometimes send matches, and if anyone who hasn't met him who would like to have feedback on matches, he does do a new service where you send him matches and he'll give you critique, and you can have a Zoom session like this, and he'll give you critique on that. So if anyone's training to become a wrestler, I'd really recommend doing that.
I'll chuck that in the description. I think it'd be a very, very good offer for anyone that's interested. I've seen them advertise it as well, but I've already done wrestling training once in my life, and I applaud anyone that does it for a living, like yourself, but it just wasn't for me. So at least I tried, though. But this isn't about me, though. So he's been university praised as a coach. I just want to ask, what is Canada as a whole like as a country? What are the people of Canada like?
Very polite. The best way I can describe it is, when there's a pedestrian crossing, not the kind with traffic lights, just the zebra crossing where the car will stop at their own discretion. You could be 20 meters away from it going to cross the road, and they'll stop for you. So you do this awkward half jog trying to run to get to there because you don't want them to. It's like when someone holds the door open for you a bit too early, and then you kind of do that awkward shuffle. So they would stop. They'd stop for you like way before they needed to. Like they could have driven past. Like 5 more cars could have driven past without any inconvenience, but they are super polite. I know that's a stereotype, but it is kind of true. And I was there for the 150th anniversary of Canada being a country. So there were loads of celebrations, lots of red and white fireworks, and a Stampede Festival. So in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, they've got this kind of rodeo cowboy thing going on with like kart racing and like local craft beer. And I got to experience, I was so lucky to be there during the Stampede Festival. Me and my friends who I'd made at the Storm Academy, we all went, we got tickets to go. It was worth it.
That sounds great. Like, just got a genuine smile. Like, I never hear anything bad about Canada. And I used to remember like Bret Hart's promos in '97 when it was like Canada versus America. He just used to shit on America, and I was like, I wish I was Canadian, but I'm not. But your style is a mix of sort of British and American wrestling. Can you explain
Exactly.
for a fan that's listening to this that may not know essentially what the main differences are? Could you sort of explain the two styles?
So I'd say the American style is faster paced. There's more running the ropes.
Hmm.
There's a few more spots where things are a little bit more choreographed,
Hmm.
which is good for if you want to speed things up. And it does tend to get a bit more of a reaction, I've found personally. And the British style is a little bit slower, but the payoff is quite good. And it's more like the first year or so that I was training, we didn't actually have a ring, we just had mats. So we weren't hitting the ropes.
Mm.
We were just doing technical moves, arm bars, holding the head, holding the waist, like learning how to transition moves. And if you get really good at the British style, you don't actually have to talk to each other at all. You can just,
Mm.
the holds look really legitimate. For example, if you've got a head in the American style, the first thing you do if someone's got a headlock, they hit them off the ropes, then they kind of go into a tackle and maybe an international.
Mm.
Whereas in the British style, you'd work the head, you try and do a counter, they'd work the head a bit more. You know, you could work a headlock for 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm.
Whereas to work a hold for that long in the American style, I remember Lance was telling me, he was like, why are you working the head for so long? Move on to something else. So
Yeah.
the styles are
Mm.
definitely quite different.
See, something like that, someone as a genuine wrestling fan, I didn't really clock onto that until you mentioned it. I'm sort of kind of comparing the two now because I will watch a lot of British wrestling and American wrestling. So I'm like, oh yeah, a little, yeah, kind of. But you do notice some of the differences. But where you're fully trained and know what you're actually doing, I don't. Sort of, it's good to have that pointed out, even to me. That's pretty good. So wrestling in the UK, you come back. What have been some of your favourite places to wrestle and some of your favourite opponents?
Hmm. So I've wrestled for Southwest Wrestling. That was
Hmm.
quite fun. That was sort of a bit south of Birmingham. And I met Kat Von Cage there. And
Mm.
I've wrestled her. She's been one of my favourite opponents to wrestle. We've had some really good matches. And we've gone on to wrestle at CPW in Coventry, Coventry Pro Wrestling. And I had a cage match with her, which left me with lots of bruises because there was a chair involved. But I was like marking out as a fan. I was like,
Mm.
just like, you better hit me with that chair. I want this match to look good, you know? And I was really proud of that match.
Mm.
So yeah, I think with CPW, there's been chance to really build a connection with the fans because they do a lot of
Oh, I think I'm having technical difficulties from my end. Don't know if you can see me or hear me.
Hello.
Yo, I'm not too sure what happened then. That was strange. I think we're gonna. Hello, can you hear me now?
Hi.
That was really strange. Yeah, no, sorry, that was really strange. Then, I don't know what happened then.
Oh, it's frozen again. Where
Uh,
should I resume?
if I go back and ask, basically, I'll cut it in. If I ask the question about what have been some of your favorite opponents and places you've been to, cool.
Sure.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. I'm just gonna. Damn it.
I'm happy to redo anything as long as we get it.
I think it's frozen. No, that's fine. That's cool now. Wicked. Right. Cool. So you've come back to the UK from Canada. Did you miss Canada, by the way? Just before we talk
I
about your
do.
return.
I do miss Canada. I still think about it quite a lot. I would love to go back.
Mm, that's fair enough. Never been. I'd love to go there. So you come back to the UK. I'd like to know what have been some of your favourite places to wrestle and who have been some of your favourite opponents.
So I've wrestled for Southwest Wrestling,
Mhm.
and there I met Kat Von Cage, who is a fantastic wrestler. And since then, we've wrestled at CPW, Coventry Pro Wrestling, and we've had a cage match for CPW, which is one of my proudest matches I've had in my career. You know, I was left, we had a steel chair, I was covered in bruises by the end, but you know, because I used to be a fan, I was like, make sure you hit me with that chair. Make sure this looks good.
Yeah.
You know, I want this match to be a good one. And, you know, when I was thinking to that Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker really took a beating with that chair. So I said, if Undertaker can take a beating with that chair, I want to as well. So feel free to wail on me. And she did. And I respect her a lot for that. My favorite opponents tend to be ones that really lay it in a bit, because we want women's wrestling to be taken seriously, and I can feed off that energy a bit better. And I've also wrestled for FTGU, which is From the Ground Up, which
That's a cool
is
name.
it was Brookside School of Wrestling. It's morphed into FTGU, and I was the inaugural women's champion for that promotion. And I had a great little storyline there with Ronnie Knox, who's also known as Neo. She's really good to wrestle. She's very technically gifted. Like, we don't even have to plan anything. We'll just riff off each other, and we'll really get a good match out of it every time. And I was a heel for that promotion, and it's always fun being heel.
What is it that you love being a heel?
I just love, so I come out, I kind of play off the pearls, play off the going to Cambridge, the snooty, posh twat, you know, the unlikable. Like, although I said I was the first in my family, and our generation was the first to go to university, I try and act like I'm from a pedigree, a long family of people that have been, and we're looking down on you, and like an evil Kate Middleton. And people hate that. They suck it up and they hate it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So good.
Where do you find yourself get like the most sort of heat with that gimmick, north or south?
Ooh, I think equally north
hated.
and south. I've done some in Manchester and Newcastle, and it was equally hated.
Could not imagine that going down well there at all. So I was going to ask, basically, I was going to sort of harp on a bit and say, like, okay, if you could pick one dream opponent, who would it be, or what's your favorite match? But I thought, because you've got sort of birds as pets, haven't you?
I do.
So you named, I'm saying this without giggling because I'm not immature, but you named your cockatoo after Chester Bennington from Linkin Park.
I did.
Linkin Park being one of my favorite bands. I'd like to know, what's your favorite Linkin Park song?
It's got to be, oh my gosh, there's so many good ones, but it's going to have to be In the End.
It's a good choice.
The classic one.
Or Crawling.
Or Crawling, or Numb. I really like Numb. And some of the more modern ones with Transformers movies.
The first one. I'd have to Google that. I don't know the top of my head. I know what you're talking about. It's one of the only good things about the film.
Burn it to the ground. Burn it to the ground. That was it.
You just ruined a song for me. I'm joking, by the way. I am joking.
I'm just gonna leave.
No, it was sad what happened to. I remember I was out in Camden, just sort of finding out. I was like, oh, shit. That's one band I'll never see live.
I know. I was going to see them at Download Festival, and I skipped that year, and I'm always regretting it, because they were going to play the whole of the Hybrid Hit Theory album from start to finish.
I literally had that album on repeat. Like, I got it at Christmas. It was so good.
And and I really think, you know, Chester, my bird, you know, he's got a good spirit, and it does, you know, it's nice to have that memory, and because it really impacted me. It made me very sad, and I wanted to turn something sad into something good.
Oh, of course, he was like a voice of a childhood, wasn't he? Like, in a way, like, just the songs are so easy to relate to. As a first time,
do you ever remember those?
No, I was just going to say.
Do you remember those AMVs?
The what one? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you remember those anime music videos, AMVs on YouTube?
Oh, yeah,
in 2008, 2009?
Yeah.
I would make those, and I'd put it to the music. Before now you'd get copyright strikes, but I used to love making AMVs, and Linkin Park was Linkin Park and Sum 41 were great bands to do AMVs to.
Sum 41, oh, great. Fat Lip. Like,
yeah.
I did not think I'd be talking about David Otunga, Canada, Chester Bennington, and Sum 41 on this podcast. I can't complain at all. It's
a good mix. It's a good mix.
Who have been some of your favourite bands that you've seen live then?
Okay, so you might groan. A lot of people roll their eyes, but my favourite band, the one I've got a tattoo of their lyrics on my ankle, is Black Veil Brides.
I love them, but that's fair. I don't understand why people groan. It's not like it's who's really shit and people like, I don't know, Take That or something.
Mhm.
I mean, if you like
Yeah,
them,
no, no, I don't. But Black Veil Brides are very good live. They're
Mm,
very, they got pyro. Think about the start of Raw or the start of SmackDown, where it's like boom, 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 boom.
mm,
There's big lights and a big show, and it's over the top, and they know it's over the top. They're partly inspired by Kiss and Motley Crue, and they
mm,
just kind of go for it. And I kind of like sometimes when you see a band that's just kind of in jeans and a t-shirt, it's like, oh, okay. But they dress up and it's all
mm,
theatrical. Anything theatrical, same reason why I like wrestling. It's over the top.
mm. And who have been some of your favorite bands you've seen live?
I've seen Sum 41 live. They were incredible.
Nice.
I saw them 2019, so they were the last band I've seen live. Yeah, before the pandemic. And who
Mm.
else have I seen? I really want to see Falling in Reverse, but they're not allowed to come to the UK. I
Why?
won't go
What?
into why.
Oh, fair
Well,
enough. If it's
Ronnie Radke got like, I will go into it. Ronnie Radke got like a prison sentence in the US, which means he's not allowed. They're allowed to tour in Europe, but not in the UK.
mm.
Um,
But we're quite strict. Like, I remember, like Snoop Dogg was banned here. Tyler, the Creator.
really?
I know, not any, I don't think anymore, but he was for a bit, for a couple of years. He was banned. Tyler, the Creator was banned. Chris
And the
Brown,
other,
he was banned.
oh, really?
Yeah.
The other the other thing I saw live, which reminded me of wrestling because it was so stupid and over the top, was the Logan Paul KSI boxing match in Manchester.
Oh, as if you saw that live. I'm sorry to hear. Did you get a refund?
I got pennies thrown at me
Why? What did you do? Oh,
because
you were
I was
cheering Logan Paul, wasn't you?
maybe.
Oh no, cancel. Right, thank you for tuning into What You Call It podcast. Oh dear. Now tell me a story. Why'd you get pennies thrown at you?
Because yeah, I was there with with my friend and we were holding up a Logan Paul sign. We were the only British people there that had a Logan Paul or Jake Paul sign. And they were throwing like 5p's at us, like they hated us. But it was like I've always said Logan Paul would be a good wrestler, like professional wrestler.
Yeah.
And now he's been on WrestleMania and he took a stunner from
He did
Kevin
well.
Owens.
I'm not a big fan of the brothers fight, and I hate Jake more, but he did his job. He looked like he had a good time, and he showed respect. So I got no issue. He was getting paid handsomely, but no issues with me.
Yeah, he took that move nicely.
He did. I can't believe he did that. You had a sign. Okay. I was just. I'm sorry. I didn't think I'd actually hear this in this podcast, but fair enough. I won't judge you for that. But if you could choose one song for your entrance, what would it be? We've been talking about music, so would you pick Linkin Park or take that?
So not take that. The tricky thing with a song is you got to get a song that kicks in fairly quickly. So for a while, my sister, there was this song by David Guetta and Sia called Titanium. My sister was Titanium.
Sorry, it's in my head now.
Shoot me down, but I won't fall. That one, and it takes ages to come in, and you got to pick a song that kicks in fairly quickly. Because if you ask a promoter, oh, can you start it from 30 seconds in? Usually it'll be miscommunicated, and whoever's on music or sound will just start it from the beginning. And if you've got a long build up, it takes too long. So as a heel, I love to come out to Vivaldi, like classical music, because that just pisses people off. Yeah. And as a face, I come out to Dragon Force, Through the Fire and Flames.
Why can't I think of that song that's on my head?
It's the song that's in Guitar Hero is on expert mode.
Haven't played that. I only know it because of South Park. That's literally it. I think I played it like once at a friend's house. We're talking like 15 years ago. I'm quite old, so nah. I'll YouTube it though. I'll watch YouTube it after.
Yeah,
this.
Dragon Force, Through the Fire and Flames. It's like you need like super fast fingers to play it.
Nah, I can't do it. Slap on the bed. So, to wrap this up, because it's been a fun interview. It's not all been about wrestling. I like that as well. I mean, I know it's mainly for the wrestling audience, but I like to truly get to know who I'm talking to, and I feel like we sort of mixed up. It's not just been about Lance Storm's wrestling school, Robby Brookside's wrestling school, and you being a wrestler. It's about your music taste, your birds, cockatoo, Chester Bennington. So it's been fun. Who would you like to face in the future? Because it's still early days for you. So who have you got in mind? Like, oh, I'd like to wrestle her if I had the chance.
I would love to wrestle maybe Toni Storm.
Good choice.
She's very talented. And I'd love to wrestle in Germany as well. I'd love to wrestle Toni Storm in Germany.
Why Germany? Just out of curiosity.
I did German at school, And I also love the food. I've been to Germany a few times, and the fans in Germany are really high energy. And I love anything that's high energy.
Germany's great. It was the last place I went to for the pandemic. I went to watch
Oh,
Dortmund.
really?
Yeah, then COVID ruined everything.
COVID
But
happened.
not going to get it down, because we're out of lockdown now, which has been great.
We are.
Where can your fans find you on social media?
So on Instagram and Twitter, it's Kiara, Kiara, then underscore, the little line, then wrestler, Kiara underscore wrestler. And Facebook is Kiara space dash space wrestler. I can't do the underscore on Facebook. So yeah, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel now, and that's Kiara dash wrestler. That's the same as the Facebook one. And you can find match highlights, you can find my entrances, you can find vlogs, behind the scenes at a wrestling show. It's really fun. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like and follow, and stay in touch. I do read all my DMs, and I have merchandise on sale. I have 8x10s signed by me, really high quality card. I did not cheap out on the card. It's really nice. It's not too shiny. It's not reflective. It's a nice matte silky. If you want a nice silky card of an 8x10 of myself, then check me out.
Hey, like good fucking promotion right there. That will all be in the description. I will make sure I add it. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. And
Thank you,
hopefully, once lockdown comes over properly and fans are allowed to interact with wrestlers, I would like to basically do this podcast on the road, and I can do this in person. But for now, stay safe. And for all you listening, there will be more of What Do You Call It podcast coming soon. And stay tuned for the sponsors. Thank you.